Well, hello, everyone. I'm Coach Lee with Action Coach Business Coaching, and I'm proud to have my guest and friend, Monte McKee, and he is the owner of two franchises, Fish Window Cleaning and Fitness Machine Technicians. Spell that, why don't you? Technicians, right? Welcome, Monte. I'm really glad to have you here.
Thanks, Lee. Appreciate being here.
Absolutely. So I do have some questions I'd like to ask you. And I think that the listeners, people who hear this would like to hear about both of your businesses. I think it's kind of interesting that you've been how long in fish? How long?
Oh, we're coming up on our 19th year right now.
19th year. And then you just bought another franchise, which I think is so cool. So you're a new entrepreneur and a seasoned entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it.
Yes. Okay. So tell us about a little bit about Fish. You've been doing it 19 years and what that's all about, and also a little bit about Fitness Machine Technicians.
Okay. Well, where Fish came about was I was ready to get out of the corporate life, and it was time to do something different. My next step was to either stay in aviation and move somewhere else, or end up doing something locally. And my wife, Deborah, love her to death. She finally said one day, you know, you've always said you wanted to own your own business, just like you grew up in. Why don't you do that? So that was how I got started with Fish. And we opened it up in 2005. My wife ran the company for a short period of time, and I actually still worked in corporate for just, I'd say, another 5 months. And then I said, that's it, I'm done. We're going to just get into this thing and really give it all the got. I'd say 4 years later, my wife got out of the business per se, and now I've been pretty much running it. And now it's still very much a family oriented thing. My daughter is actually the operations manager, Melinda, and she's been doing that actively for the last 2.5, 3 years. So I'm still very involved in the business, but don't have to be in the business every day, which is really nice, which is probably why I started into the other business, because I started getting bored. That's one of the things I've found out as being an entrepreneur is you get tired of doing the same thing over and over, but you sure need to get that excitement again and look at those calculated risks of what you could go do.
Right.
So then I had a young man come to me who was in the fitness industry. He'd been in it for 8 years, and he noticed that there was a great a void of repair work being done on fitness equipment. The companies here locally were only wanting to sell new, and he knew there was very good quality equipment out there that needed maintenance and things like that. And so we looked into it, and we ended up finding Fitness Machine Technicians. That's a franchise out of Philadelphia, and it was basically the same as what I did when I started Fish. It's their processes. They are things that are really important that you have to work on that are already done, as opposed to having to recreate the entire wheel from the beginning. And so that's how we kind of started down that path. So now we're into year 2 of that right now.
Okay, congratulations. Your story is similar to mine. I was in corporate, and that ended. My husband said, "Well, do something that you love, and aren't we lucky to be able to get to work for the biggest idiot of all?" That's what they say. Ourselves. But
well, yeah, every day you look in the mirror and
every day.
you know
That's right.
exactly. Yeah. What I think happens sometimes with people with franchises is they truly think that it is literally just them sitting in a chair making money. And unfortunately, the processes are there. I mean, the processes are there, which are great, but it's the initiative that you have to do to make it your community, in your environment,
Right.
know how to deal with all that. So that's where it really becomes fun. So to me, it's like having a great foundation to build off of, and then you go from there.
I agree. I mean, you still have to be in marketing, you have to be in finance, you still have to be in operations, you have to be a leader, you have to know how to hire, you have to know how to fire. All those things still have to happen, even if you own a franchise.
Yes.
So that's good. That's a good advice. I do think you get a quicker start. You also, if you, I think you just the chances of a business staying in business are better as a franchise. I can't remember what the percentages are, but you know, the percentages for businesses around 5 years is at 20% now that stay in business that long.
Mm.
I know for franchises, at least it's at least twice that much. I need to look that up again. It's worth knowing, you know, because there are good franchises and not so good franchises too.
Absolutely.
So
And
you have
that's
to
one thing I've
do your
learned is just the
homework.
two different franchises. Their models are completely different, even though they're both service oriented
Mhm.
companies. The basis of what they are is the same. How they're the structure within
Uh-huh.
is completely different. So for me, it's a learning curve in how to relate how I would do everything with fish window cleaning versus fitness machine technicians.
Uh-huh.
Um, Fitness machine technicians, their staff is much smaller. So they're a little more, there's a lot of people holding a lot of hats. Where in
Right.
fish, there's certain people doing certain things all the time.
Mhm.
And I know
Okay.
exactly who to talk to on that. So it's that's part of it's just making sure, first off, you're following their guidelines. And secondly, who do you talk to if you really need to get some advice on what to do with something?
That's that is good information. I appreciate that. I might even do an article about that or something, Monty. That's good. So since you started the business 19 years ago, and now you have the second one, what's been the biggest learning curve in the industry you're in? So fish window, let's talk about that. What's been the
Okay.
biggest learning curve?
Well, I'll admit, when I started Fish, being a window cleaning business, I did my marketing research to find out who was all out there. And in those days, it was the yellow pages. It's about all we had, you
Right,
know.
right.
And what I remember is I did not find but maybe one or two companies. And again, I didn't know much about them at all, but I even had difficulty even getting information on a lot of them. What I learned about the window cleaning business is there's a lot of people doing it under the radar. And
Mhm.
we would call those the bucket bobs. Those are the people that are simply picking up a bucket and getting a squeegee and going out and doing cleaning. They're still your competitors, but
Uh-huh.
unfortunately, they may or may not be doing it in a quality fashion or a service fashion than what we've created. So
Mhm.
the learning curve I learned is I just kept my head down to begin with and just started going out and cold calling all kinds of people, just talking to people. And I found out, I'll admit, I was apprehensive to do this. I'm not a sales guy any way, shape, or form. I was a marketing manufacturing guy. And but I found out people enjoyed having a good interaction with somebody, and they felt like at the end of the conversation there was somebody they could trust. And that was my learning curve from that was if I can walk away with some level of trust with that person, whether we're doing business with them or not, they are on my side for the long haul, which is really cool. So that's how, in my opinion, was the learning curve. And the other thing too, I learned never ever guess what you think your customer is thinking in their head. You simply provide the service and you provide it the way you need to do it so that you can back it 100%. If you're trying to change things constantly to fit your customer base all the time, you are going to fail because you
Mm.
cannot fit everybody at the
Mhm.
same time. Create a model, create something that works really well for that 80% and let that 20% happen as it needs to happen.
Yep. The good
Yeah,
old Pareto principle. It always works.
right.
80-20 rule. Yeah.
So
Uh, um, good pieces of advice. So now when you advertise, now is it easy to find your competitors? Like,
it is, I would say in the last 4 or 5 years, my competitors, there have been more franchise service window companies coming out of the woodwork and coming here
okay.
into the Midwest. What was funny is a lot of them would not consider the Midwest because of our ever-changing climate, where it gets
Mm,
really, really cold and it gets really, really hot. They were
right.
trying to stay on the coasts, and that's all they'd want to do, and stay south. But I can tell you one of the most successful fish franchises is in Michigan, and they're doing over $2.5 million a year on window cleaning, and it snows a lot up there.
It
So that
sure
is
does.
not an issue whatsoever. So what I think has happened though is some of these people have come in locally because just to stroke my own ego, I think it's because I've made it look easy.
Absolutely, that
And
happens.
it's not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Not
it is not.
easy.
This is not an easy. I've seen many of my competitors come, and I've seen many go, and there are some that I'm very good friends with. They're good people. They're really
Mhm.
good people. I wish them well because there's plenty of glass out there.
I always say too that all the tide raises all ships, and that is true. If we all just get better, I'm good with competition. I say co-opetition. There are people I refer
That's what
people
it
to from time to time that, may have a better skill set with someone else's, depending on what they're needing or wanting, So,
Absolutely.
mhm.
I have, that's one thing as I've gotten older, I realize how much I don't know
Oh,
that I can learn from so many more people
mhm,
as I go about. So
right. Um, let's see. You mentioned something. I can't remember what I was gonna ask, but I'll come back to that. I think that's interesting. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. I think that the most important lesson that I would tell people in starting any business is, even if you're not a salesperson, you will be selling. So you might as well get used to it. And,
I agree. And on top
and
of that, you're even selling to your employees.
yes,
You've got to show you're motivated every day on the employee side as well as on the
right.
customer side
Mhm.
all the time.
Yep. Selling your vision, selling your mission, selling everything, the culture of the business, all of those things. Yeah, that's good too. So selling is probably the number one skill set, and nobody wants to do it. I haven't met a single person that says, I can't wait to stop my overpaid corporate job, go to work, and then knock on doors of people I don't know. But that's what we have to do. Every and don't you find that most people are pretty darn nice when you knock on their door?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the beauty of being in the Midwest, I think, is that
Mhm.
most people do not want to tell you. Well, there's a phrase that I've coined over the years from what I see is when people won't say no, but they'll say maybe. But so they're being pleasantly avoidant is what they're doing.
Yeah.
So with that being said, that always gives the door is always open to
Mhm.
a potential opportunity. And quite frankly, some people are just waiting to see if they know a little bit more about you. I had many of customers that it'd been a year since I'd met with them, and they're finally deciding to go with us because
Yeah.
now they see us. Now
And
they
you're
see
still
more of
there,
us.
right?
We're an existing company now. So
They see your
that
trucks everywhere.
yeah, I say that for a lot of entrepreneurs or brand new startup companies. It's like, first off, that first year, people are going maybe not want to deal with you because they don't trust you yet. It's not you, it's
Mhm.
what you provide. They want to know that you're going to be around a few years from now.
I
And
think
that's a really key thing.
people don't buy the first time somebody tries to sell them something. So if you're selling something, you can't just try to sell it once. Because I've talked to people like, oh, I don't, no, nobody wants to buy from me. They do, just not today.
Right.
You
Right.
know, I really believe that. So that's a good attitude. So I got bucket bobs and won't say no in Kansas. We say they are still a prospect until they die or say no. And those are the only two reasons they wouldn't be a prospect, right? So anyway, well, so what do people misunderstand about, I guess, both of the industries that you're in, but the window cleaning industry, what do people misunderstand about that? Because I don't know. What do you hear when you make a
what
presentation or?
what I find out is if they've had a bad experience or it's the level of professionalism in the window cleaning industry is really low, and it's from years of this. I mean, there have been companies like Fish that have come about that have created a level of culture and professionalism that come with the business.
Mhm.
Um, in some cases, I mean, you would be told that, why should I pay any more than what I pay to get my car washed for getting my windows cleaned or something like that? And quite frankly, it's a completely different thing. I mean, but still, either way, we're trying to cover for all the overhead expenses that are there. I mean,
Mhm.
let's face it, the industry itself, insurance. If you as soon as I'm off the ground, it gets expensive, and I don't care if that's 6 inches off the ground, it still gets more expensive.
Mm.
Um, and one of the things too is considered a higher risk business because of the high rise side of the business. So unfortunately, us that do 3 stories and less have to carry some of the brunt of that activity and stuff. So it's not an inexpensive business to be in regard to state. Okay, there are some states that are great,
And doing it right.
and doing it right.
Bucket Bob doesn't have insurance when he's 6 inches off.
No, he has no insurance. If something breaks, I mean, if something happens while we're on that job, it's under our care, custody, control. That's all there is to it.
Mhm.
And that's a very key thing. Uh, then again, I mean, some people don't see the value in what that is, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. They can go to Bucket Bob and then you find the customer that appreciates you.
I appreciate the customer that's had the bucket bob and then they have us and then they go
Yeah.
like that. So lately what I've been noticing is there's been a lot of signs out on corners. You see a lot on, and a
I
lot of
have.
busy corners.
Hmm.
I'm personally not a big fan of those, especially for our profession, because I think immediately it starts to show that we are going to do something really cheap. You
Hmm.
know, what I want to do is let that customer go ahead and hire that person, find out what their experience is about, and then come in and be their next window cleaner and probably be their only window cleaner after that.
Yeah, I know one of the things that you do, just because of my experience with you, is that you clean all the crevices in the window.
Yes.
And that is such a big thing. And that's not a fun thing to do. And and most people, that most window cleaners, I think, don't include that in the window cleaning service. But it's the window part of it. And
And,
it's a big
and
deal.
there's lots of changes happening in the window industry, especially on the residential side. There's special coatings that they're putting on windows that
Good.
if you don't know, you can literally void the warranty of brand new windows if you're not careful.
Okay.
Um, or there could be other issues that come about where the coating, you cannot apply anything but simply like just water. I mean, not even soap. And it sounds weird, but that's how technical and scientific it's gotten over the years to try to get the most out of creating an R factor in a window and stuff like
Okay.
that.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So you've been an entrepreneur now for 19 years and you just have taken on the second business, these last 2 years. What's the hardest part about being an entrepreneur in your opinion?
Um, I think the hardest thing, and to me, it's my strength as well, is knowing that every day, you get to make a difference in yourself and in anybody and your employees that are around you, and they rely on you to do what you need to do. Um, and I was told a long time in corporate world, I remember how backstabbing and issues were, or you'd get blamed for
Mhm.
something that had no concern. I am the complete opposite now. I realize that every day, if there's a problem, I have an opportunity to try to solve that problem. And I feel so much more in control than I did, even though I know it's still chaos around me. I'm
Yeah.
still got more control.
Mhm.
And at the end of it, I still get to talk to that employee or talk to that customer and make it right for myself as well as for them.
That's awesome. How many employees do you have now, and how many did you have in your first year?
My first year, uh,
Am I looking at him?
not including myself, Deborah, and anybody else, one. Just
Okay.
one. Now we have 12 employees.
Wonderful.
Would
Okay.
love to have some more, honestly. I would
Mhm.
love to have some more people.
Okay.
But yeah, we're sitting with 12 right now. So, and they're all out doing work every day right now, Monday through Friday.
Okay,
Busy as
I,
can
I
be.
I believe it. And we're videoing this in spring in Kansas, and everybody's dying to have their curtains open so they can have a clean windows to see. I can imagine it's busy now
Yeah.
too. So that's the hardest part. What's your favorite part about being an entrepreneur?
I think the funnest part about it is you do have a little bit more, at least for the I consider myself, maybe it's perception, is I have a little more control of my destiny. I can understand where I want, where if I have extra money in regard to how our profits are doing, I have a place that I can go do something with it if I need to.
Hmm.
I don't feel like I'm a slave to the fact that I'm going to go to work Monday through Friday every single day all the time. Now, granted, that's in the last 10 years or so is when I finally started backing off. I'm still here. I'm still here, but
Yeah,
I'm not 110% involved in everything every day. And I like that.
yeah.
And I love seeing people take it on themselves. I love empowering people to make them do their next step.
Well, and like you said when we started, that you were able to get the second business going because you didn't have to be in the business all the time.
Right.
And that our definition of a successful business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that can work without you. And the longer the better. But I think sometimes entrepreneurs have to practice being gone a week and then practice being gone two, and then dabble in another business so that they're, and I like to see, I like that you're doing that. I think that's great.
I'll admit, those first few years, you're like, will this thing survive without me? And then
Mm-hmm.
after a while, you got to realize, and there's, I think I was setting, I did like 12 estimates that day. And it was at the end of the day, and I still had like go back to the office and do more paperwork. And an epiphany just went off in my head and says, you know, I have two very capable people at the office right now that could be doing part of what I'm doing. Why am I still out here doing it? Because I'm holding them up from getting work done. And when I realized that I was the reason why things weren't getting done, it's time to step away.
Oh,
You know,
brilliant. Yeah. I am my own worst enemy sometimes because I'm so good.
yeah, see, that's just it. But that's just, and it is, I know of some people that are entrepreneurs that still just revel in living in the moment all the time. It's like they bought themselves a job.
I was going to say that's not an entrepreneur as a definition. It's a job owner,
I
right?
agree. I
Well,
agree. But
you
it's
can be
almost like
a business
it,
owner without being an entrepreneur.
well, remember what I said is you kind of, when you start into this world, you have control of your destiny to some extent. You're controlling your own destiny to what you think you can do and no more than what you can do. But I mean, I
Mindset.
I don't want to do that. You know, I
Mhm.
don't want to do that. I'm First off, I know I'm getting older and I want to use my brain more than my brawn. So
Mhm.
I want to be able to do that kind of stuff. So
Well, sad to hear you're getting older. I'm not getting any older.
no, no, you look
Oh,
ageless.
yeah. So I ask all the entrepreneurs that I interview, how do you start your day?
Uh, Getting out of bed. That's about it.
Not a
That's
ritual, not a
at
morning
least most of
ritual.
the time. What's
Okay.
that?
No morning ritual.
Morning ritual for me is I have two puppies at home, and of course my wife. I should say she's there before the puppies, but anyway, the puppies, they have to go outside, and I get their breakfast and do their little thing, and I will usually sit down for just a moment and might look at my phone just for a moment to see if there's anything that came in that I need to relay to anybody in the office that needs to know something, because my plan is not to go in first thing. I'm not going to be
Okay.
there till like an hour, 2 hours after it's everything started.
Okay. So that's your
Um,
ritual is to stay away from the business the first 2 hours. That's
yes.
love it.
And I learned that from some of my other fellow franchisees of Fish. It's like they were, this is an early morning business. I mean, this is like
Mhm.
right now, we start at 7 o'clock in the morning. And so you want to not be in their way. You don't want to, and I used to have to live that all the time. I was there all the time. So I let them get their day started. I let them get through whatever issues they need to get to, because some things don't need to come up to the big boss. You know, they don't need to be here.
Probably
So
not. Yeah. Maybe
they'll
20% at
take
the
care of
most.
themselves. After that, it's a cup of coffee, and then maybe sometimes I'll take the dogs out for a walk. And then by that time, Deborah's ready to go to work, and I'll give her a little kiss, and I'll probably be out the door. That's about it.
Okay, I love it. I hear a lot of mindset things with you, mind shift things, especially over the period of time you've been doing what you're doing. I mean, making that decision to stay home for the first 2 hours of the day is cool. What makes you feel inspired then?
What makes me feel inspired?
Hmm.
Um, I'm telling you right now, I have the greatest hope in our young people. I really do. I know that I still have trouble sometimes understanding them and try to figure out but I'm telling you, when these kids get it, they inspire the heck out of me. They make me feel like we've got great hope. We're gonna go so much farther. And how bright they are, even though they're not given a chance. Because I'll admit, some of the guys that I've got working for me may have not had the best chances in their careers. And that is a real cool thing when you see these kids get it. And I, I overheard a conversation. That's the thing about it now anymore. I get to hear some of the conversations as because I'm not getting them directly. Is one kid, he says, this whole job, this is so cool. He says, I'm going to do my darndest to make this X amount of dollars this year or this month, because I know how much I'm going to make in this. And it's like, that's the greatest thing in the world. You're
Mm.
actually right. It's a performance-based paid job. And you realize, if I do more, I make more. And it's like, he's got it. He's got it.
And
You
learning
know?
that attitude will take him so far in life to the next position,
Yes,
because he may not, maybe he'll be in supervisor with you someday, or maybe he'll buy the franchise. Who knows?
that's
And
right.
it all starts with that being able to inspire someone to see the best in themselves. Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's really cool. Do you have a favorite business book? And if you do, why that book?
Oh, The one I will tell you, I go back to this one from years and years and years ago. It's still the E-Myth.
I was going to say, I love,
E-Myth is such a great book.
yeah.
I don't care who you are, you have to reread that periodically, especially as you're progressing through your
Mhm.
entrepreneurial life, because you've got to be reminded all the time to work on the business and not in the business.
Yeah, and the
I,
technician part feels so good when you're doing it. You just feel so powerful. And if you keep doing that, you're never going to have a business,
that's
right?
right. That's right. And
Mhm.
right now we're like the other business, the fitness machine, because it's so still so new. I feel that right now. I
Mm,
remember what it was year two with fish, and now I remember now what it's like for year two on the new business and stuff like that.
yeah. Well, I agree. I think the E-Myth is should be read by every. In fact, we just need to do a book club and get a bunch of us together and read that book. You know, I love reading a chapter, discussing it, reading a chapter, discussing it. Because at every stage of business, you learn a new piece out of that book. I think I've
Yes.
read it 4 or 5 times now, and twice with the group, and it was great. It's like hearing 10 people's, it's like reading it 10 times, something. It's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
But it's I think you're right. It's a book that's perpetual. It will
Uh-huh.
help you either way.
Right, right. So this is a legacy question, kind of a deep question, but when it's all said and done, what do you want people to remember about Monty?
About me.
Mhm.
Um, well, I would say first off, I want them to know that I want them to know that I tried to have fun in life and have fun not at their expense, but at my own to some extent. And that I do take things very seriously, but I don't take myself seriously. And more importantly, I guess, if anything, I want people to think that I was a fair individual, that I want to help, that I always wanted to help, and that I was someone that had their back if they needed me there. Um,
Hmm.
Nothing. I mean, honestly, that's just it. What's funny is my children at this moment are not really interested in owning the business. So I've got this new milestone to deal with is someday is what we'll do at that point, because
Mhm.
Melinda's very actively involved in the business, but she doesn't really want to own it.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping she'll change her mind later on as she gets farther into this. But it's one of those things where I try to do it. It's tough to have family in the business as well as other people and try to treat everybody as fairly as possible across the way without making it sound like you're doing favoritism to
Yeah.
either side of anything. So that's why fair is really important to me.
I love it. I love it. It would be fun to ask your team, how they would remember you or describe you. And then if it lines up, that's cool. It wouldn't surprise me that it would line up, and that would
I'd
be,
like to think so. I'm pretty transparent. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think I'm somebody I don't have a hidden agenda whatsoever.
true congruency. I always think about as a coach, I cannot ask somebody to do something that I wouldn't believe in myself or do myself. And that true congruency in life and in business is cool.
Yes. There is one thing I do every year with the whole team is we do what's called a State of the Union address on the
Love
business.
it. Hmm.
And I bring everybody in and we talk the financials on how the business went. I keep it to a point that makes it important and understandable to all of them. But at the end of it all, none of them have ever received any type of information like this about a business that they worked in or around at all. And a whole reason for me doing that is if they know more about how this thing runs and works, they'll be better for me. So, and they'll be doing better for the business.
That is brilliant. That is big companies do that. That's one of the things we can learn from big companies is, that they do that State of the Union, and even if you don't understand what they're saying, it's you're I one of the coaches I still stole this from one of the other coaches. Your job as the CEO is not really to be the boss; it's really to be the chief reminding officer. We're in this business because we're in this business, and remind them why, and showing them the numbers is so involving. I love it.
Yes. Yes.
So, okay. Um, if somebody wants to find you, maybe somebody wants to talk to you about a franchise opportunity or something, how would people reach out to you, or how do you want people to find you? I know you're on LinkedIn, and I'll make sure that
Yeah,
I post
LinkedIn is
that.
definitely the easiest way to try to get a hold of me in any way, shape,
Okay.
or form. If they were to call and I mean, they can always call Fish Window Cleaning,
Okay.
and call our office directly. My email is mmckee@fwcwichita.com. That's a great way to get me.
Okay.
Um,
Good.
or get a hold of you, and you can get a hold of me.
That's true. They can get hold of me. You can get hold. I
Because
know.
I think we know each other.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's right. We do. Well, this has been a good interview. I took a lot of notes, and
Good.
I feel like my biggest takeaway from our time together was what you talked about in sales, and then getting that E-Myth book again. And then I just love that you like to have fun. That's one of my mantras is if I,
No,
yeah,
really.
yeah, no way, right? I say businesses should be fun, and making money should be fun, and you should have fun making money. Why
I
not?
agree.
Yeah,
I
it's all
you
about.
couldn't say, I could not say that any better. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
You
love
gotta have
it.
fun.
So I was in the videos and things with that when I do them, I try to. So it was good talking to you. So I've just interviewed Monte McKee, and you are the fish window cleaning franchise owner in the Wichita, Kansas area. And you also are the fitness machine technicians franchise owner in the Wichita, Kansas area. And you've been in business 19 years, and it has been an honor to interview you today. I'm Coach Lee with Action Coach Business Coaching, and this is the Business Spotlight.